Alright, so unfortunately my video got deleted and my second one had no sound, but so I'm just going to go over my thought process before, during, and after this epic finale. So before it was like a couple hours before, and I've been thinking about it and kind of like what this has to deal with. I know that Kreider had already told us that this needs to, like, we're learning about basically everything, like we're talking, like relating it to everything from the class. So like we talked about the revolutions we've gone through, the industrial and the scientific revolution, and then what was this next revolution that we're going to, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. So before this, though, I was thinking about, okay, well, the um, scientific revolution, a lot of it based around technology and how people were either in support of it or completely against it, and all in between. So I was thinking about, okay, well, how are we going to be looking at technology through this epic finale? Like, are we going to be supporting it, creating it, abandoning it? Like, how are we going to look at this? And I was thinking about, like, back to our first our start of the semester readings that we did, and like skits that we did. I know that one that I did was about like technology consuming us, and like the voting for president of Cyborg or going back to the old ways. So I didn't know if like might be how it is, especially since we knew we had groups, how those would play a factor into it. So that was kind of going through my mind before this. Then also there was the um, industrial revolution was also about that, and like new technologies and that. And also this is called technology and society. So for the society part of it, I was thinking about like how this like would work together at, like, are we creating our own society, looking at others. Again, we knew that we had groups, so how those affect each other, which we did end up learning later on. So after kind of thinking about that and pondering that, I headed over and knew already which side the west side of the building was. So when we met there and I saw the sign, there was a few other people there, and we all started talking about the name Tiresias, which is the name of the server that we were in, and how, like, we knew that the logo matched up with that. And so people were talking about Tiresias and the mythological history of it, and how that was a prophet who was then turned into a woman, is what everybody was going towards. And so we were talking about, okay, does this have to do with genders or inequality or something related to that? So then we all got in. We knew we all had groups, and so each group went up, but we didn't know what was happening. So then once we got assigned to our rooms, we kind of scrambled for a little bit. Like, we didn't know who our supervisor was, but one was supposed to come forward, and so that was John Ryan for the policy policing in the first place. We all went in, and it kind of was a little rough start, not knowing what to do. Some things were like delayed because apparently the red group didn't send stuff over in time, so it was a little hard, especially since we knew we had this timer and we weren't sure really what we should be doing at this point. But soon we realized, as it kind of get going, we got into the flow of then creating these policies. And for some reason, our group kind of went towards more of a negative connotation with these policies, of like creating policies that are like, oh, if you do like saying that somebody would do something bad versus like something good, which I know policies tend to do that, but I was wondering like why we are saying, because I know we brought up the firing squad, like why we are saying, oh, if they do this, they're sent to the firing squad. So it's kind of a little difficult. And while also in that group is when we decided to go to the bathroom, and I found out that there is that call number line. And so when we first started talking about it, everyone was like, oh, don't call that number. Like, because policy policing, it says don't harm, like the letter said don't harm Tiresias. Or like, is that harming Tiresias? And everyone kept saying that that was the kick the chicken moment, or don't do that. So we all decided not to do that. And then soon later on, I got promoted to the orange group, and that's when we really started putting the puzzle pieces together, because some people had already been transferred from other places, so we were able to figure out like what each group was doing and how it related to the next group. And so that kind of goes, I was thinking like go back to the society of like how these groups are affecting each other and like what it was. And about halfway through our time, maybe like three quarters, is when we were waiting, and like people were starting to send the corrupt messages to the cancel counseling. And so we all started talking about like, okay, what does this mean, like what do we do? And we were starting to talk about the name of the company, and so how that related back to the prophet, who was a blind prophet. And I had the thought of, okay, if this is a blind prophet and we're this company, are we blind prophets almost, and saying that like we're blindly following whoever this is, because nobody ever asked questions, nobody asked the administrators questions, or like asked any questions about it. We just kind of did what we were told to. And so that's kind of how we kept following that. But shortly thereafter, we all then decided to revolt and ended up figuring it out. But it was just kind of interesting to reflect upon how we've kind of just followed these standards and guidelines, and even now we follow this like technology, these policies set in place by other people without necessarily asking questions. And so by the end, like people start like the revolution that we're in now is the censorship revolution, and like how are we gonna like revolt against censorship because we were in charge of creating censorship for people that use Tiresias. Um, and so kind of like incorporating that to like now, how are we going to do that, especially with the use of like technology coming up? How is that all going to switch from now? But thank you.